there.
Hi.
Thank you
I'm
so much.
home on I'm
Yeah.
home on this wet Friday.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining me on a Friday. I know how it is when we're wrapping up our week. So I'm just happy that you were able to join me today. I won't take up too much of your time today, I promise you. Um,
Okay,
but I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you today. And just so you don't feel like you're talking to a complete stranger, I like to just kind of kick us off by telling you some background information about me and who I am and why we're here. And then I have some questions for you, and then I'll let you get off here and enjoy your weekend, if that sounds okay.
great. Thanks.
So I am the owner, publisher, and editor-in-chief for a new luxury lifestyle magazine called Black Audacity Magazine. We launched our first iteration of the magazine in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from Georgia. I've lived out in the DMV area for the past 15, 16 years. Actually, it might be closer to 18. But
Well, okay.
yeah, I moved out there from law school. I did law school up in Michigan, moved down to DC, and worked in the federal government for a while, and well, actually for about 10 years, and then decided to start my own business. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, so
Mhm.
I knew one of the businesses always wanted to start was a magazine. And so I started my first magazine in the DC area called Arlington Lifestyle Magazine.
Mm.
That was a great magazine. It was also a luxury lifestyle magazine, but I did that in partnership with a third party printing or publishing company. And I quickly realized that their vision and mission just didn't line up with mine. And so I sold them the magazine and started my own publishing company, Black Audacity Publishing. And we launched my first independent magazine, Black Audacity Magazine, which is what brings us here today. Uh,
Okay.
so we launched Black Audacity Magazine Atlanta in December of last year. So we're still really new. We are launching additional versions of the magazine. We're going to be launching one in Baltimore, in some other cities around the US. By 2030, we plan to have a magazine in all 50 states. So we're doing a lot fast, but I wanted to launch Black Audacity Magazine to celebrate, highlight Black-owned businesses, Black excellence, whether it be in politics, entertainment, the arts, you name it, anything that touches our lifestyles, right? Our
Okay.
lifestyles that encouraged me, and that's what made me want to start this magazine. I've always loved print magazines. So we do go out print to about 80,000
Uh,
readers right now. But we also have a digital version of the magazine as well for those who love their digital devices. And me too. Me too. I still love getting that print in my hand, and something about that with my magazines and my books. I do Audible too, but I still love getting the print. And so yeah, we're off to a great start. And the issue that I was interested in interviewing you for is our women's issue, which is our next issue. And we're interviewing a lot of interesting women with a lot of diverse backgrounds. Actually, right before this interview with you, I just got off a very interesting background with a young lady who just got drafted into the WNBA. So she'll be just
oh,
one of a lot of amazing women who will be featured in this magazine. And so again, that brings us to you and why you're here. So now that you know a little bit about me, I would love to just talk about you. And maybe starting off by you telling me your background, where you grew up, where you're from, your family structure and dynamic, and maybe how that family upbringing kind of helped to mold you be the woman that you are today.
that's a lot.
Yeah. Just dive
Well,
right in.
I grew up in Baltimore, born and raised, and by a single mother, single divorced mother.
Mhm.
And I did not meet my father's family
Mhm.
until I was 60 years old.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And finding out that my family, actually the plantation that our family's ancestors were on is only 22 miles away from my house. It's
What?
right here on the East Coast. And we have, through DNA and some other sources, we've been able to find about 904 descendants. The plantation was actually owned by Francis Scott Key's grandmother.
Wow. Oh, that that's a lot right there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I did not know some of those things. That's wow. I'm
yeah.
in the middle, and that's really impressive because I'm in the middle of doing my whole ancestry and trying to find our lineage, and I've gotten a long way, but not as far as you just described, not even close.
Well, I have a sister who's interested in genealogy, so
Yeah.
she's been doing the research since 1995.
Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
and through my DNA test, I was able to connect with family
Yeah.
for the first
Yeah.
time ever.
Wow.
But let's see. Now, professional life, I was a registered X-ray technician,
Okay.
but I got out of that
Mhm.
and went into the travel industry.
Mhm.
I worked for the largest Black, at that time, the largest Black travel agency in the country.
Mhm.
And we had major corporate clients. And so I left that and I went on to work for an airline for
Mhm.
a short time. Then I worked for a travel wholesaler where
Mhm.
we were chartering jets around the country.
Wow.
Um, and then I received an offer for a job in the Bahamas.
Oh, wow. That sounds
So,
like a
yes,
great
because,
job offer.
right. So I worked for 8 years in the Bahamas. I was the first African American female that the Ministry of Tourism hired in their marketing and tourism department. So I did that for 8 years.
Mhm.
And then I came back home
Mhm.
and I worked. And I came back home because my son was going to high school
Mhm.
and it was time for me to come back and settle down. And my mother and my aunt getting older, and he was getting a little bit testy. so, so I came back home full time.
Mhm.
And from there, I worked as director of community outreach for Baltimore City under then Council President Sheila Dixon, who became Mayor Sheila Dixon.
Yes.
So I did that for 13 years.
Wow.
And then I started my own company. When I left City Hall, I started my own business, which is called the Wattsline.
Mhm.
And I manage projects, produce events,
Mhm.
and I've added in travel again. So I'm back to doing travel again.
Wow.
So that's me.
That's you in a nutshell. We're gonna get into some details of some of the minutia of some of that, but that is just that alone is such a fascinating background. I love hearing people's backstory and just hearing what made them help to create and mold them to be the person they are today. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So many other questions that I don't have on my list for today are popping into my head. So we might have to have a follow-up interview with you if you don't mind making yourself available. I would greatly appreciate it. But I do want to kind of delve a little bit deeper into your advocacy work. I know you've done a lot of HIV and AIDS advocacy work, particularly
Okay.
during your time working under Sheila Dixon. So maybe
Mhm.
if you could tell me a little bit about that, the work that you did while you worked under Miss Dixon, and what kind of sparked you. I don't know if it was part of your job description or if you showed the interest in some of the advocacy work. If you could kind of break that down for us, that would be great.
Well, it started, Sheila's brother and his wife both died from HIV.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a nephew, well, two nephews actually, who also died of HIV
Wow.
at just about the same time. And so, as director of community outreach, I was talking to a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of different arenas. And the community kept telling me there's a problem with HIV and AIDS in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the health commissioner,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me no, there was no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was under control. You know, he made me sound like I was a simpleton.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Sheila Dixon, who was city council president at the time. And I asked her, did she mind if I look into this? Because I'm hearing two different stories here.
Right.
The community is telling me one thing, and the health commissioner is telling me another.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put together a commission, HIV and AIDS commission, and we had about 23 members, people from Johns Hopkins, people from University of Maryland, the best and the brightest minds around HIV and AIDS and community.
Mm-hmm.
They were at the table as well. And so after a year of work, we put together a report for the city. And we found out that through statistics, because I'm a strong believer in numbers,
Me too.
and epidemic is 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore was 12%.
Oh my God.
We had a serious problem.
Yeah.
So the report we put out was the state of emergency of HIV and AIDS in Baltimore City.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the CDC noticed the work that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was invited to write a grant for prevention
Mm-hmm.
of HIV and AIDS in Baltimore City because there were no prevention messages at that time. The only message they were giving out was once you were infected,
Mm-hmm.
then they would teach you how to prevent you from giving it to someone else. But they
Right.
never told you that HIV and AIDS is preventable.
Right.
You don't have to get it.
Right.
So that's the message that we put forth, was that, it was preventable,
Mm-hmm.
and CDC awarded the city the grant.
Mm-hmm.
So I put together it was called Business Alert Alerter through CDC.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was we targeted 131 businesses in the area that African Americans frequent. There were two. We did one on the west side of town, one on the east side of town, but a total of 131. And the store vendors, we gave them quick lessons on prevention messages. They handed out prevention cards. Burger King also was a part of this. We had 9 Burger Kings in Baltimore City that participated. So they passed out literature and condoms. So that was my intro into the HIV.
So
And
that
I've stayed
mm-hmm.
and I've stayed close since then.
That was going to be my follow-up question for you too. I know that's not. I know you're no longer in that role anymore. You run your own business, but have you stayed close to the community? And if so, how would you describe the changes that you've seen? And so where we are, and then how much further do we have to go with the education and the training and the prevention? Would you say?
Well, I'd stay close to the community because it's a part of me.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something I was doing because of my job. It was because it's something that I considered to be very serious, and I don't want my grandchildren to have to deal with this issue. But we're back at the same place where we were in 2001. Our numbers have increased again. There are no prevention messages. Again, media does not talk about it. During COVID, HIV and AIDS became a real issue because nobody talked about it and everybody was close.
Yep.
Spending a lot of time together.
That's right. Indoors. Yep. Yep. Netflix
So we're back
and chill.
Yeah. We're back when we started.
Yep.
And so I've just sort of brought myself back to the point where I have to be physically involved now. Before I was talking to people, paying attention to what was going on. But now I feel that I'm going to have to step back up and see what we can do because we need the prevention messages again.
Yeah.
Kids have heard nothing about HIV and AIDS. This wasn't even anything that was being discussed with them.
Right.
So But we're back that point again.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you and wanted to talk to you about this issue specifically. Because like I stated when we started, my magazine goes out to a lot of us, a lot of Black people in Black communities. And I know that it affects our communities. And like you said, it's so many people. There are generations of people who have grown up not knowing or not being taught
Right.
about HIV and AIDS. And so
Right.
education, playing that offense instead of always on the defense after it has already happened, is key. And getting insight from people like you who know so much about it, is going to be critical for us to pass this information on to those next generations so that then they can pass them on to the generations after them. So again, I thank you for sharing all of your knowledge with us today. And so with all of that being said and keeping that in mind, what would you say, talking to some young people today, what would be some of your biggest pieces of advice for them right now, the generations who maybe haven't heard as much as they should have about HIV and AIDS prevention?
The first thing that came to mind, BET became one of our partners as well.
I used to
And
work for
they,
BET when I
okay,
when I
and then,
first came out to DC. Yeah.
well, you remember Wrap It Up.
Yeah, yep, I do. That was you.
We had over 2,000 kids here at Morgan State University
Wow. Yep, yep,
giving them that message on a Saturday with their and we had parents with them.
yep.
And our biggest message was wrap it up.
Wrap it up. That's right. Tell your friends, tell your friends. Yeah. Share a condom, take a condom, share a condom.
Right.
Those are really, really important messages. But yeah, my first job, that was what got me to the DC area. Was
Okay.
I had to complete my externship to get my law degree. And so BET wanted me to come support their legal department. I ended up supporting their legal publishing department, which, all of that experience helped me now with my magazine. And Studio 2, which was also in DC at the time. So
Okay.
small world.
Yeah, and they did great commercials
Yeah.
that ran in the Baltimore area. I think it had to have been Comcast at that
Mhm.
time.
I think so. Yeah.
So we had a wraparound program. We had the program with the vendors, the
Mhm.
different stores, and then we had the commercials running, as well as the in-person time with the youth.
Yeah. So would you say then that communication would be the top or one of the top priorities today to reignite that message and getting it out there to the youth?
It should be. The message I've been looking at TV, well, cable TV a lot, and the messages that they're giving now about HIV is PrEP,
Yes.
which
Yep.
is
I've seen that a
and
lot.
and there's still that's still it's still prevention,
Yeah.
but it's not the prevention that they should be hearing.
Right.
They should be hearing that it is preventable.
Hmm.
Uh, and they're saying take this pill
Yeah.
and it's preventable. But the truth of the matter is you don't have to get this at all if you do the other things you need to do.
That's right. That's right. Um, yeah, so again, I think that it's gonna take all of us really starting to talk about this again, um,
Yes.
and to start to bring the awareness back to it the way you and the folks who you worked with were working so hard to do. I really do think so. I'm gonna do my part, here with Black Audacity Magazine, and with you helping us by doing interviews like this. I think it'll go a long way with helping.